Welcome, Chris Evans Radio. We are back with Little Dave, and we are recording in the morning. We both just have one meal in us because I
Yeah,
slept in a little bit. And he said, "Hey, I can get on." So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So, a topic actually that as I was watching our sprinkler system go this morning, it's like my old man habit now, is I turn our sprinklers on and just watch it go, um, and drink coffee. So you made this post about winning. So do you want to just give a brief overview of what you posted?
pretty much it was just like it's winning isn't always just about like, trophies, accolades, and things like that. It's kind of more so bettering yourself in the most summed down version, right? Like every victory is like, that a victory is beating something or someone. And a lot of the time that's just going to be yourself, especially in bodybuilding. Because like there's no one here who's gonna. If I want to go in the fridge right now and grab something out of there and eat it because I feel like it, no one's gonna care. Like, legitimately, no one would care. Would it change the outcome of what I'm trying to do in the next 6 weeks? Definitely. But it's the ability to say no to that turn off that instant gratification and work towards, that may be slightly uncomfortable. I mean, it's not really difficult, but it adds up.
You know, I always try to tell people with bodybuilding, for me, it's always been a game of delayed gratification. So what you do today, tomorrow, this week, this year may not be present for another year or two,
Yeah.
or a decade for some, right? Like it's those just little action items repeated over and over and over again with perfection or getting closer to perfection each week. And
Yeah.
again, that's something I want to stress to everyone. Like, I think so many people see us now and they think, man, like they just woke up and flipped a switch and it was this way. And it was easy, or it's robotic or routine. And it wasn't. Like, it took us years to refine this skill. And I say
Yeah.
bodybuilding is a skill. I don't think if you look at it on paper, if you presented it to someone who was outside of this world, they would be like, all right, so you have to do cardio for 30 minutes. You have to eat these 6 meals that are all on paper, and then you have to train for 60 to 90 minutes. Most humans as a whole would say, okay, in the grand scheme of life, that's not hard. And
No.
I would agree. The task of each individual action item is not challenging. It isn't going out and digging a 100-foot trench with a shovel or, you know, crawling in a minefield and praying to God you don't blow up. Like, we aren't fighting for our lives, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the groundhog day of bodybuilding is relentless. And I don't care who you are, and people are like, oh, he's trying to be hardcore. It's not. Any endeavor in life that forces you to be close to damn near perfect 24/7 wears on you after years
Yeah.
if you don't love it. And unless you refine your, as I said, skill and hone in on things that you can do to make it enjoyable or tolerable, however you want to say that, that's the magic of this. You and I have found meals that we can eat year round with no issue. We have
Hmm.
found a training style that allows us to be excited to go 4 or 5 times a week and
Yeah.
look forward to those sessions. And then for cardio, we found what works for us. Like, for some people, that's cranking on the stairs. Some people it's spin intervals. Some people it's walking on the treadmill or outside. Like, that's the biggest thing to me, that when I read your post, if that's what I thought about, is how can I literally take the things I have to accomplish today, build them into my life in terms of being able to function around my job and family and win. And that's what we have to do,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah. Well, it's a really fun aspect of bodybuilding because our bodies are, it is a form. Obviously, we're making changes, right? That's how this works. But anything we do today, we don't see for 6 months.
No.
So in reality, the way we look today is a combination of what we've done for the last 6 months. It's not just what I did today. I didn't wake up. The breakfast I just ate isn't why I look the way I do right now.
Correct. Yes.
Right? It's the combination of the last 6 months of being on point with my diet, being on point with training, cardio, supplementation, all that jazz. And that's where so many people get really lost, is because they want to make these changes, but they need it, like a week from now, or they needed it yesterday. And that's the fun truth about bodybuilding is like, especially like if you need muscle mass on you, building muscle is probably one of the slowest processes in the body
Yeah.
to actually, well, it takes 9 months to develop a baby.
Mhm.
How big are babies? Like they're like tops 10 pounds,
Yep. Yep.
and that's like the body legitimately shuts everything else off to build that baby, you
Right.
know, then that's 9 pounds or 10 pounds or sometimes a little bit bigger than that, but no more than that. Like give that a thought. And that's not all muscle tissue either.
No, no. It's really interesting. Whenever I get clients who come to me and they're like, Chris, I want to get all the fat off. And then we get all the fat off and they realize like, hey, I have these weaknesses or these body parts really need to come up. And then we get started on a rebound phase and they're like, man, this is so much of a slower process. And I'm like, yeah, we can lose depending upon the size of the individual. Like for females, if we're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, hell yeah. If it's a man, I've had giant big guys come to me and we're losing 4 to 5 pounds a week. And that is so freaking rewarding, to get on the scale and you see it, you're like, oh hell yeah, I did everything right. The scale reflects better, my pants fit better. I moved in 2 belt holes on my training belt or the belt I wear for work. And it's so like quick in the grand scheme of life. Whereas muscle, you know, so people are like, I'm going to gain 10 pounds this all season. Okay.
Right.
Even if you did, what's that? Less than probably quarter-pound a week.
Yeah.
For all
A pound a month.
right. Yes. Yeah. So you're looking at roughly, depending on how many weeks in a month, you're looking at a quarter pound a month or week. Sorry.
Yeah.
That is not rewarding at all because you see yourself in the mirror every day. You see yourself training, and you're like, you can't tell a quarter pound. Not when it's evenly distributed amongst your body, right? And
Oh
then
yeah.
simultaneously, your body fat's higher, so you're not as lean, so you can't see that. It's not tangible yet. And then you take all the fat off, and you're like, oh man, like this is better, and it's like, huh. So you said that, and that's huge because I think so many people see those infomercials, or I say infomercials, that dates my age, but now it's like Instagram, TikToks, where it's like gain 10 pounds of muscle in 12 weeks with this incredible program. And it's like, man, if it was that easy, why wouldn't I do it personally?
Yeah. If it was that easy, why aren't there more jacked people walking around?
Yes. Yes. Correct. I mean, so let's say you even go to a gym that's very bodybuilding centric, like meaning you have to have a lot of good competitors there. If you look at still the whole member base, let's say there's 2,500 members at a gym, like it's still under 5 to 10% population of that gym that'll make you double take, male or female.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You're like, fuck, that dude's got a ton of muscle. Like, and when you think about it as a whole, it's very weird because you would think in the grand scheme of life, you'd say, oh, well, there's so many more people weight training now, and there's so many more people on PEDs now, which is the truth. But yet there aren't that many people who look crazy big, muscular. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you say the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Well, it's one of those things. It's like you have to have all of your ducks in a row for bodybuilding to work.
Hmm.
If you nail the training, which is the easy part,
Yes.
and you nail the drugs, which is also, let's say, an easy part, but you don't nail your diet, you're going to end up looking like a retired football player.
Yes.
You're like, this guy lifts weights, but I'm not sure for what. Or he used to lift weights. That's what you're going to look like.
Yes.
Did you ever get asked, did you play sports in high school? And they'll be like, and you'll be like, maybe possibly you did, but that's what people will ask you if if you're not following the diet like you should. They're gonna be like, do you play sports? That's what they'll ask you. Versus like if you have the diet nailed in, they're gonna be like, wow, you're a bodybuilder, aren't you? That's what people will say. You have to have all those things in, and it's really funny because it's blatantly obvious. I mean, like well, even just like cell neglitude, that was a $27 billion thing last year, right? And that means pretty much the entire state of Utah bought and was using cell neglitude. If you look at that for the America, so it's like, why is everybody not skinny? that those things work, but they also don't do it for you.
Right.
You know, it's like that's like buying a treadmill and being like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get lean now, but just having it.
Right. Yes.
You know, if like if you have a treadmill in the corner and you never turn it on or get on it, like your life didn't change.
The amount of people I've heard like, oh yeah, I have. That's one of the questions I tend to ask people when they have a different lifestyle to where they tend to have to do like post lift cardio, which I tend to hate.
I can't stand it.
Because I'll always go back to if you're training properly outside of maybe arms, I don't want to do anything but go home and eat.
Yeah,
Like, after arms, I could probably do 30 minutes on a treadmill or Stairmaster. I wouldn't think twice about it. But after legs or back, hard chest, shoulders, man, I don't want to think about that. So, a question I'll ask is, hey, do you have any cardio at home, or is it viable to, like, do you have a neighborhood or area you can walk at outside to do it in the morning? And the amount of people who have said to me over the years, like, I have a treadmill, but it's just a dust collector and I hang laundry on it. And I'm like, so you have a piece of equipment in your home that can guarantee fat loss and you're not using it?
yeah,
Like, why? Like, the you've been to my house, so it's like I have a treadmill, I have a bike downstairs. I have no excuse. I have a neighborhood I can walk around that has a trail. Like, literally, I have no zero excuse. Even
yeah,
if my car was in the shop or I didn't have a ride, or fill in the blank, like I can get my cardio in.
yeah. Super true. I mean, we all have a floor.
Yes. Yeah.
We could probably figure something out. I remember, I mean, when the 2020 happened, I had a treadmill at my place, but it broke, and it was like, all right, cool. This is a terrible time to buy one, so I just dealt with like outdoor walks and
Yeah.
managing it that way,
Mhm.
and it's the same effort applied. It doesn't change much.
You speaking about a treadmill broke. So one of the preps I did with Shelby, I was mid cardio and our treadmill just stopped. Like, wouldn't cut on nothing. And I was like, oh shit. Like, now we had used and abused that thing for years, so it got its money's worth.
Yeah,
I'll never forget. I was like, fuck, we got to go get another one. So I jumped off of that. I had to go to work, worked all day. Then we went, bought one, I think from Dick's Sporting Goods. And I was putting the thing together at 11 o'clock.
yeah,
And at 12, I got on that treadmill, finished the remainder of my morning cardio, and then woke up the next morning and did cardio before work on the new one.
yeah,
You know how easy it would have been just like, fuck it. Like, I got 2/3 of that done. But my brain, like, I would not have been able to sleep. I've been sitting there in bed just like, oh, get up and do that last 15 minutes. Just get up and do the last 15 minutes, bro. Like, just do it.
mhm.
Get it over with. So, as you said, could I have went outside and walked? Yes. But I was like, fuck, I also wanted to use the new treadmill and see if I liked it.
Exactly, exactly. That's going back to what we were talking about beginning. That's a victory.
Yes. No.
That person, like, doing things what are going to better you but are difficult is the step in the direction where we all want to go. Like, that is how we grow and develop.
Mhm.
We know, like, that's not just bodybuilding. Like, you're not gonna have, I mean, like, you have to have the sad to feel happy.
Yes.
So if you're never feeling sad, how are you expect to be happy?
Mhm. Yep.
You know?
Agreed.
So it's like all those little things you get, and it adds up. So, like, the little thing, all those little victories, what were difficult, lead to something what's going to be a positive.
And that was a great segue into what I commented on your post is what I've always felt about with winning is you only know how truly sweet winning is if you experience like agony and defeat, right? Like, there's perspective gain to where as if you've always won, you begin to not appreciate it.
Yeah.
And for me specifically, I remember the first overall I won. I didn't know how to behave or act because I was used to losing. Maybe I'd win my class, lose the overall. Maybe I'd finish second in the class. Maybe I'd, fill in the blank. Maybe I was last call out. And when I won, I was so used to always thinking like, okay, you get off stage, you look at the photos, you reflect like, how could I have been better? What can I do better for next time? What did I learn from this prep? And when I won, I almost didn't know how to act because I was like, I still needed to think all those things, but it was like, that winning and everyone telling me how great I looked kind of jaded my perspective. And I was like, a little bit of that fire in my stomach temporarily went away. Now, it quickly came back.
Yeah.
But I remember just feeling, I was very lulled. I remember Angela looking at me and was like, she's like, what's going on with you? And I was like, I'm so used to being pissed off for not winning.
Yeah.
I don't know how to behave right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
it's
it.
kind of funny. I've ran with that mindset. It's probably not healthy, but like the "you suck, you get better" mindset. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Like it's kind of funny. It's like, well, I know for a fact, like, cool. I won an overall at a local show. Like, I'm headed to a place where there's a good chance it's going to be fucking difficult.
Yes.
You
Yep.
know, like there's always people better than you. There's going to be someone bigger than stronger than you. Worked harder than you. All of those things. And it's just that one always makes me laugh because like I've had so many people like, oh, you're going for your pro card, and I'm like, I'm just going to do my best. Like I don't really give a shit about a pro card. Like I want a pro physique. We've talked about that multiple times on here.
Yep.
Like I'm walking around in my own goddamn trophy. Like if I look like that dude on the trophy, like that's pretty fucking cool.
Agreed.
And not that's something I get to keep too. Like the trophy, accolades are cool, but like honestly, knowing you got yourself somewhere too is probably the better feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I always when I was hanging around John and people would say that to him, when he was because he'd been banging on that door for years. And listen, I'd been around a lot of pros at that point in my life, and you wouldn't have known seeing him that he wasn't. Like everyone just thought he was, or the
Yeah,
people in the know would always be like, "Oh, this year's going to be your year." And watching how he handled that was very humbling for me because it was like, man, I can only imagine walking around looking like he did at 5'5", 230 and fucking peeled and not really missing body parts. And to know that like people would say, "Oh, you're going to win this year," and he's like, we'll see.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe. Like if everything lines up, I'll win, right? And it's really interesting because in this generation of competitors right now, like it's everyone's like, oh, they haven't even won a local show yet, and they're talking about getting pro cards or chasing pro cards or road to pro. And I'm like, have you guys actually been to a pro show yet or a pro qualifying show? And then have you been to a pro show? Because to me, if you've been to a pro show in your division, you look at it, it's like, okay, so that's who you want to stand beside. You aren't sniffing that. So
yeah,
awesome. You're going to get a pro card real quick and say a watered down show, and you're going to go finish last for the next 6 years. That's what you want? Are you sure? I guess maybe they can put IFBB Pro in their Instagram name, and that makes them happy. But it's like what I've always thought about, especially the people who want to do this for long term. What good would it be for us to have you pro at USA's this year if you can't stand on a pro show and remotely look respectable and in place?
yeah,
So now we have to take a 2 to 3 year all season to get you enough muscle to stand with the pros. Like, how about we just build a pro physique? You win, you deserve it, and you get in there and you can bang with the big boys, right?
yeah,
I guess that to me has always been the logical progression.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a matter of showing up prepared.
Yeah, correct.
It's like the biggest thing. That's probably one of the biggest things you do in bodybuilding. Like bodybuilding is not difficult. It's honestly just a big game of being prepared. Like, do I have my meals? Do I have a gym I can go to? Do I have a place I can do cardio? Can I get my sleep in? Can I get my supplements in? It's like if you don't have those on hand, you're failing immediately.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and that goes back to showing up to a show like you said, like if you're prepared, you're going to show up, you do well, you move forward, you show up, you do well. You don't
Right.
have to, you don't have that, oh, let's move forward. And all of a sudden you're, you know, the very last guy in the, first immediately to the left.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the worst feeling in that, right, is like, they have 10, 12, 8 guys lined up. You happen to be in the middle based upon when you checked in or your last name, and they immediately take you in your dead center and they put you on the end. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good day for you, man.
Yeah.
Placing wise, placing wise. And I think so few like fail to realize that. and again, it's because what you said, going back to doing your homework, is I think I was so obsessed with bodybuilding. Like I kind of looked at it when I was younger and started to get into the competitive scene of it. Is I looked at who was at the pinnacle
Yeah.
and then I started working my way down. Like, okay, cool. Like this is the progression to get there. And which is why I personally have never rushed a pro qualifier, because I know that I still have areas I need to get better if I want to place well to pro qualifying show. Like, and too many people don't look at it that way, or they have a delusion of like a different set of eyes, and they see in the mirror, they don't see what we see.
Yeah.
Like I'm a freak. I'm like, ah. Not yet. So, I mean, what's
Nice.
interesting is when you were middleweight, even a lower light heavyweight, like we were still just banging away regional shows, man. Like, because you knew we
Yep.
needed tissue. And then you got ready one year, and I was like, I think, yeah, let's give a pro qualifier a shot. That's the natural progression of that. Is do you
Yeah.
have enough muscle? Have you filled in most of the holes? And then can you get to a condition that will be respectable on stage? If you don't check all three of those boxes, to me, you're just pissing money away
Yeah.
and time. Because as we've said, this bodybuilding thing is a chunk of our life.
Yeah.
And if you spend this much of it training for a pro show where you're going to get last call out, why?
Yeah.
You could have been growing and getting better.
Yeah. Well, that
Or you
goes
could have,
to, well, even just prepping for shows, like if you shouldn't be.
yes.
Like,
Yep.
why on earth are you doing 6 shows a year if you're not progressing?
Yep.
So, like if you're taking fourth place every time you go to a show, you're doing 5 or 6 of them a year, and you don't allow yourself to actually grow and, off season. Why?
Yes.
Do you like to, is it bodybuilding or body showing?
Yep. Yep.
If you like just being on stage, cool. Like there's a lot of things you can do for that.
Yeah.
But if you want to get better, it's bodybuilding,
Yeah.
the 8 months of the year should probably be eating food and training really hard. And then we take away the food
Yeah.
to a degree,
Yes. There you
and training really hard stays there the entire time. And you show off what you've built,
go.
not what you've already had for the last 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's really interesting because you and I are on such different spectrums right now of the competitive era, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think so many people, they crave to be where you are right now, which is all the fat's off. You're having fun in the gym. You look like a freak all times of every day. Right. Where I am, I think so many people are scared to be in, because it's like, oh, well, when I strip my shirt off, I don't look as nearly as impressive as I did, say, 6 months ago. And even though you and I both understand that both of these phases have to be in the course of the year or 2 years, with this level of like Instagram and show and, like guys want to have their shirts off all the time and say, look how great I look. Like, it's just, it can't be the case year round if you have to get better. And by better, I
Yeah.
mean more muscle. Like, you can't live in an extreme deficit and extremely low body fats, meaning sub 6 to 5 all year, and make noticeable progress. And if you can, you're a genetic freak, and that's not you or I. Like,
Yeah.
Most people want your face wrinkles, not this fucking shit I have on my chin right now. Like, but that's where you got to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's yeah. You got to do both sides of the spectrum. You can't expect to get one thing without the other.
Yeah.
You have to have the difficult to have the easy.
Yeah. Well,
And it's really funny. People like we were saying, prep is so much fun for me because I'm not stuffing my face all the time. I don't have to force food down. I feel fantastic throughout the day. I actually like being hungry.
yes. Yep.
Well, I don't know if most people are like that way. I don't know how people's brains work, but I definitely don't like being full all the time, like hunger wise. And then training is just as fun. Nothing changes there, you know, except I get to push myself because like there may or may not be food involved. Like, okay, cool, I get to do this, but I get to do it without the extra help of, I don't get, you took my rice from 3 cups down to 2. So now it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
It's nothing crazy, but it's just a matter of keep doing the things I've been doing and just with limited food to take off body fat. And then once body fat's off, there's more cards you can play, you know, and that's what makes it more fun. But you also have more instant gratification because you make changes, because losing body fat happens fast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, changing muscle fullness happens fast.
Yeah.
You know, the little things like that, they're really quick adventures. But like we said earlier, building muscle, if you put on 1 pound a month, you're doing fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you break that down to the day to day, like it looks like this number right here.
Right. Yeah.
You know, 1 pound a month divided by 30. All right. You know, well, what is that? Half an ounce?
Right.
Half an ounce.
Right.
So what, 14 grams? That's like that's 3 nickels.
Yeah, right. And I'll explain that progression, right? So where you are right now, it's like, okay, mentally, I know the numbers I need to move. I know where my performance needs to be. And I'm going to do that with suboptimal calories for growth. But the reward of that is your pump grows, you feel the food get into your body. And then afterwards, when you like send me photos that you did post lift yesterday, that to me, that's why I love the deficit. Because it's
Yeah.
like I just accomplished everything that most say you can't do, which is maintain muscle or grow or get more strength through a prep when calories are low. And then my pump is skin splitting. And I can see visibly all the muscle I put on in the off season. That's so rewarding. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, in the off season, it's like, okay, I'm eating, sleeping, resting, recovering. I have the optimal scenario to get bigger, better, and stronger. Now I need to make that happen. And you see how incredibly deep you can push your brain to levels of pain and progress that you've never been, so that you can then do that where you're at. Okay, cool. Now I can row the 170-pound dumbbell for 8 perfect reps. Now I just need to make that happen where instead of having 800 grams of carbs, I'm going to have 200. Can I do that? That's the magic of this. And I think so many people miss it.
Yeah.
Because they have this like FOMO, right? Where it's like, oh God, like I want to get all the fat off. And then when they're in where you're at, they want to be where I'm at. They're like, oh, but my strength isn't as good, as I'm not as full, I'm not as strong, blah, blah, right? And it's always this like wanting what they aren't. I'm like, hey, like, can you just enjoy where you're at now? Like, because
Yeah.
I'm sure you've
Well,
had
and then
clients too. Sorry, go ahead.
they get super confused too because their body's telling them, you know, if you've never been lean before, your body's going to tell you to eat like crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you have to, and just being, you know, like if you, that's like where that delayed gratification comes in because your body's going to be like screaming at you, be like, hey, let's eat some more, you know, let's get some burgers or whatever. And if you're always thinking about that, you know, if all you have on your mind is pizza, and that just goes through your mind every day you're like pizza, 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 you end up fucking getting one,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know, versus like just, you know, possibly having a free meal and taking care of that, you know, when you need it, but like constantly thinking about it's never going to help you.
You know, a client scenario that always runs in my brain that I begin to get worried is when you're inside of 4 weeks out and you have a client who comes to you and they're like, here's what I'm going to do for my off season. Here's my training plan. Like, or they want me to build that now. And I'm like, okay, I understand that you're excited to make progress and, you know, flip the switch to rebound. What about if we just took all the effort, energy, and focused on what you need to do right now?
Yeah.
Embrace where you're at. And I know that for some people that daydreaming, so to speak, about the next phase may be able to get them like through to the next meal or staying on plan. But I've always felt like that's suboptimal in terms of progress in the moment because you're looking forward to what's next as opposed to living now.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
those people tend to do this post show. They're like, man, I could have really went harder at the end of the last prep, huh? Yep. You were thinking about now as opposed to what you should have been focusing on in the minute. And, you know, again, to go back to why you and I have always made so much progress is, man, we don't even talk about your free meal after the show. Like, a lot of times we don't even talk about what show is next.
Yeah. Very true.
When you finished North Americans last year, we sat at that diner. I was like, any thoughts about what you want to do next? You're like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, cool.
right. I know I'm going to be training tomorrow. That's about all.
Yeah, we're gonna do back tomorrow. You're gonna eat more food than you did yesterday. Okay, cool. And that ability to live in the present, I think, will be so much more rewarding when you step away from this.
Yeah,
Because you hear so many really successful pros that are now retired. And they're like, man, I didn't appreciate how I looked, how I felt, you know, being able to be like on the Olympia stage or the New York Pro or USA's or North Americans, and they'll say that, and it's like, my career went like this, and which is why I think I always push you guys to be like, hey, be present. Instead of chasing that pro card, what about if we just chase your best right now, and wherever your best lands you based upon a judge's opinion is what we take?
yeah,
Because I think when we all look back on bodybuilding and our photos when we're not nearly the size and leanness that we are now, we'll be like, man, why didn't I appreciate that more? I look like a freak.
yeah,
Where in the moment you're like, well, I don't look like Phil Heath yet. I got to keep
yeah,
going. And that's what I think any good competitor battles their whole life, right? Wanting to be better, but also not missing on the current.
yeah,
Because the grass isn't always greener, right? I Most may think it is, but listen to how many retired guys and girls who are so bitter towards our sport, and it's because they didn't live in that moment. They're always wanting more, pushing the envelope, whatever. And then now they're retired and they're lost and they have no clue what to do with their life. So like, oh, I'm going to shit on bodybuilding.
yeah.
It's sad.
It really is. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Like whatever that is, like people all the time are like, bodybuilding did this to me. Bodybuilding gave me this eating disorder. Bodybuilding gave me body dysmorphia. It's like bodybuilding is not a ability. It doesn't have the ability to do that. It is a thing.
Yep.
You did that to yourself from your actions. Like and that's like a really hard truth for some people because they want a scapegoat,
Oh yeah.
right? They want to be like, I want to blame this for my problems. It was like that problem was self-caused,
Yes.
and that blows their minds. Bodybuilding, like, cool, yes, food's restricted in bodybuilding. Doesn't mean you can't have it. You chose not to. Bodybuilding didn't tell you to binge eat for 4 weeks after the show. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. It's that is a tough concept because it's that accountability mirror, right? Because I'll be brutally honest. I've had a show where I couldn't stop putting stuff in my face afterwards because I had pushed harder than I'd ever done in a prep before, and I couldn't stop eating like dog shit for my final meal. And it took me literally saying, today is the day, no more. And it wasn't because my coach made me do craziness for 8 to 12 weeks. I chose this. I asked him to get me as lean as humanly possible in the time period given. And so many people want to say, oh, well, that's that coach's fault. If he would have done this, this, this. No, hell no. I had the ability to say, I'm not putting that trash in my mouth anymore. And I
Yeah.
chose the opposite because in the moment I couldn't, or I refused to say no. I just accepted and gave into that weakness. And as opposed to blaming someone, guess what? I am in full control of what goes into here.
Yeah.
It isn't bodybuilding, it isn't the sport, it isn't none of that mess. And I always laugh because I'm like, oh, it made you a drug addict or it made you this. And I'm like, no, it didn't. You chose to do all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
And it's funny because none of those compounds are addicting. They're not addictive substances. Like, yeah, cool. The feeling of having a pump might be addicting,
yeah.
but if your only ability to get a pump is from like taking Anadrol and Halo testing,
Right.
like you probably suck at training for
Yeah.
one. But your diet, like let's go back down to your hydration before we even get into all of that, right? You
Yeah.
can't get a pump. Like, all right, cool. But like none of those things they might be like a little mentally addicting to like the progression and stuff, but all of that still happens without them.
Yes. Yep. And I always go back to this too. Like, if you stop testosterone tomorrow, you're not going to have withdrawal symptoms. You may not feel great because it's dive bombing, but you aren't going to shake and throw up and get sick and all the things that would happen if you were an alcoholic or you were a heroin addict or
Yep.
honestly even caffeine, right? Like the amount of clients I've had, like, man, I've had a terrible headache all day because I hadn't any caffeine. Yeah, that's a side effect. That's a withdrawal.
Yeah.
None of
Oh,
that
it's a,
happens if you stop
we could go
melatonin.
into we could go into kratom, that new part of bodybuilding, what's going crazy.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
awesome. It has an awesome ability to help, but you got to remember it's also an opiate.
Yeah.
Like, like use it, but be mindful of this shit.
Yeah.
Like that shit is always comical to me. It's like, all right, cool. Like that's 100% your choice, but like if you get addicted to that and now you have withdrawal symptoms because you've been taking it at high dosage for, your entire prep, and then you go cold turkey and you start getting nauseous, sweaty, and having, convulsions, you're like, what have I been taking? It's like, you knew this. You just weren't informed.
Right. Yeah. Oh, all of this, I laugh at it, but I mean, this is why you and I both have jobs, right? Like,
Yep.
because we have to manage someone's program so that that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, the amount of people I've said that have come to me and they're like, "Oh, my previous coach has me. I have to take Clean T3. Why? Okay, is your thyroid fucked up? If it is, let's address that medically. Let's not
Yeah.
self-diagnose. Let's not, oh, we'll just keep you on 25 micrograms of T3 year round. Like, no, no, no. Like, let's wean off, get your blood work done, and go get a medical professional help you with this. If your thyroid is truly screwed up, right?
Yeah.
I've always thought that. And then Clen, right? Like it's like, okay, you're just taking a fat burner. No shit. Like, how about we wean off of that and we just eat better and exercise and do cardio? Like,
Yep.
you don't need it. Will you have to eat less calories? Probably. Will you feel as great training? Probably not in the short term. But then, like, it's like with anything in life, I've already even had people say, "Oh, Chris, I can't do a workout without 300 megs of caffeine in me." Well, you definitely could do it. You're just choosing not to.
Yeah. So it's actually pretty funny. Like I try my, like, almost every time I do a show in the off season, I'm a little bit more free with it, but it's actually, I probably do this backwards than most people, but pre-contest, I have a hard limit on caffeine. Like I will not go over 300 milligrams of caffeine a day. Period. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. Like if I've had it, it's done. Like, okay, cool. We're ending it. And it, generally I'm sitting at like 200 milligrams a day is my total intake for caffeine.
Mhm.
And for some people, that's obscenely low because they're like in prep, they're like, I need to have it all.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
two bangs, they're fat burners, they're over the counter fat burners,
Pre-workout.
they're stimulants,
Yeah.
all of that jazz. They're sitting at like 700 milligrams of caffeine a day.
Yeah.
And they're wondering why, they're having systemic fatigue.
Yep. Yep. Oh, and listen, I've been guilty of that in the past. Like, I've
Yeah.
had
I mean,
preps
that's
where
why I have that limit. Like in the off season, it's actually funny because like my food gets so high and I know it messes with my digestion sometimes, but it's like, I like eat a meal and I'm like, I need a fucking nap, but it's like, I can't nap right now.
yeah. Yeah, I had a prep with Shelby once where I think my caffeine was like just over a gram,
Yeah.
and it was a problem. And with me in life, I thought, okay, how can I get off this as fast as possible? And I'm just gonna go cold turkey. So I'm like, fuck it. So I decided to do that. I had a week of rebound, and then Angela had booked us a trip to Disney for her and Tana. And this was before
Yeah.
Jackson was born. So it's in 2015, I think. I'd done really well that year. I was very happy with myself. Like, but I knew I was on way too much caffeine. And I was like, okay, screw that. I'm gonna go to Disney. I'm gonna have just zero. I'm gonna drink a decaf coffee. It's gonna be the most caffeine, or maybe I think I might have had like a diet soda a day, right?
Yeah.
That was such a horrible idea. We would come back to the room and I would be like mouth open, snoring for like 3.5 hours. And she's like, Chris, it's time. Like, let's get up. You're not gonna sleep in the room all day.
Yeah. Your body was just like, oh, cool. We can rest now.
It wasn't it was I had no stress, right? Because
Yeah.
I just used the cardio of walking around those parks all day as my
Yeah.
cardio, so to speak. And then I took that as an off week of training. So I had no stress. I wasn't working. So it was one of those things where my body was like, oh, you can chill out now.
Yeah.
It just wanted to hibernate.
Yeah. Dude, probably put on muscle after that week, actually.
Oh, I looked incredible when I came back. I'd go to the pool and look like I had a pump all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was still pretty lean. And
Yeah.
then
And
I
you're
remember
rebounding out of a show,
Mhm.
and then your body you just took out all stress. So it's like, oh, we can just recover this week. You know,
Right.
that's kind of fun.
And it was really cool. I'll share the meal plan with you guys. So Angela paid, it was like we had like 3 meals a day. So when we got down there, like there was a vitamin shop on the way from the airport to Disney. So I stopped and got like 2 jugs of protein. And then we would stop to the Kroger and I got like because we didn't have one of those rooms that time we went that had like a full kitchen. So I was got
Yeah.
a shitload of rice cakes, cream of rice, oatmeal. So I would do like shake oats in the morning, and then we would eat like a normal breakfast, which was for me was like eggs and whole wheat toast and fruit. And then she found us a place that had like chicken or steak and potato. Then I would do a shake and oats, and then we'd do like the same thing, like steak or fish and rice for dinner, and then have another shake and cream of rice before bed. And I'm telling you, I was just doing this.
Yeah.
And we were walking so much. So I was like head to toe vascular, but I just couldn't keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
So I got back and I'll never forget like my first pump back of training was so ridiculous. Like it hurt.
Oh,
It was so
yeah.
screaming full. But I did rid myself by that week of caffeine. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's the right way to do it, by the way.
That next Monday, you probably were like, I feel amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I was so ready. I was ready for just to train and be back to like my normal diet food all the time. And that wasn't that was a good little it set up for a great rebound because I didn't
Yeah.
come back fat and like water because I wasn't smashing like desserts and sweets, and I was just eating whole food and then drinking shakes in between. So again, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's always optimal, but because when we went again the next time, I just got all of our food shipped to the kitchen and just made it, which is much
Yeah.
better, by the way. But young and learning in
Yeah.
2015, so I was mid-20s.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, I think that we've covered absolutely everything for today. If you have any questions or have a topic for us, post them in the comment section and we will discuss it. And again, him and I are both open books, so feel free to ask
Mhm.
away. If you do ask about his girlfriend or my wife, I probably won't talk about it because that's between us. But
Yep.
everything else wide open.
Perfect. Yeah.
All
Very true.
right, guys. Until next time, Chris, Dave, we are done.